Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Big Bold Show. I'm your host, Edric, and we got some great topics to talk to you about today, including how airplanes are grounded and it's costing the airlines billions of dollars. Is Kim Jong un alive or dead? Who knows? But we're going to get into it on this episode. And the Pentagon just recently released some footage of UFOs. I don't know if I believe in UFOs or not, but it's pretty compelling. So stay tuned, and if we have time, we're going to talk about sports and how the sports industry is trying to make sure they retain as much of the millions of dollars that they're losing right now by going at things a different way. So we got this and more coming up on episode 2 of the Big Bowl Show. Stay tuned. Hey folks, so airplanes, it's crazy, but right now as I speak to you today, I'm supposed to be in San Diego walking across the stage, receiving my bachelor's degree in real estate studies. Well, it's a bachelor in arts with a concentration in real estate studies. That is an actual degree, despite popular belief. But at any rate, I'm not there, and you are probably not where you're supposed to be, or you've probably canceled travel that was supposed to have happened or is going to be happening soon. And so the question is, what happens to all the airplanes that typically are in the air from airport to airport? According to Bloomberg, over 16,000 passenger jets are grounded worldwide. And that seems pretty simple. You know, if you go park your car in a long-term parking garage, you just lock it up and you go about your way. But with airplanes, things aren't the same. There's a lot of expense. Some argue even just as much for a grounded plane as it is to put one in the sky, including maintaining things like hydraulics, making sure that birds don't nest in the engine bays, et cetera, et cetera. And the billions of dollars that airlines is losing, they won't be able to do this long term. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really curious if the government's going to be able to save an industry like the airline industry, or if they have any plans to. What do you think is going to happen, Jordan? You think the government's going to chip in and just bail out the airlines, or what?
They ain't gonna bail out all the taxes we're gonna have to pay.
Oh, okay. Well, they're not going to bail out the taxes. They're going to make us pay
Pay
more
all the
taxes.
taxes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I mean. But
Well, so, travel is very important in the 20th century, right? It's not like it's one of those things where you can not travel. You have to. I think one thing that is going to be different coming out of the other side of this pandemic is there's going to be a lot less business trips. A lot more people are going to, because they're more familiar with meeting online and doing things like Zoom. It's actually a good strategy for most businesses. You can save money instead of buying an airplane ticket to go to a business meeting. So I think that'll come out of it. But yeah, this is scary because my biggest fear is this: when airlines open back up, how much more expensive are tickets going to be to fly so that they can make up for all the money that they've lost over the last couple months? That's really what the concern is. And it's a hefty balance because if you outprice it too much, then people won't buy plane tickets. So at any rate, we'd love to know what your feedback is on airplanes and travel, and let us know what travel plans you had and how they were affected by COVID-19. When we come back, we're going to talk about Kim Jong un. Is he alive, or is he paralyzed, or what's going on with him? I don't know. We'll talk about it when we come back. Welcome back to the Big Bold Show. I'm Edric, your host, and you know what, folks? Infamous dictator Kim Jong Un has been cited recently after a lot of rumors going around that he was possibly dead or dying in the hospital. So the question is, his appearance, is it real? Some people are saying that it was a doppelganger. It's a double that has reported in his place and that he's not doing well. But here's my thing on it. I don't know if it's him or not. What do you think, Jordan? You think Kim Jong is laid up in the hospital right now, or he's back in play?
I don't know. I think I think he actually that actually happened.
Like what actually happened?
Like that he actually like might be sick or in a vegetative state, but you honestly would never know though.
Yeah, well, I try to go with good sources. The BBC is saying that he's back and he's appeared. And here's what really makes me think that it's legit. Donald Trump, our lovely president, has already commented, and his comments via Twitter was he was glad to see that he was back and doing well. I don't think that the intelligent minds that work behind the scenes would allow Trump to put out information like that if they didn't have reasonable sources to prove that he was actually out and about. So I don't know. Time will tell. If you haven't been following Kim Jong Un and his reign, he's a very, very secretive person. That whole country is secretive. So you never know what's going to happen until after the fact. And you were telling me earlier that his daughter is next in line to be the dictator of Korea. Is that true?
I mean, yeah, that would make the most sense because it would either be his daughter. Yeah, it would be his daughter. I think that would get the next person to be a dictator in that country.
But I wonder. I never known women to be able to get in line of or being in that place. I don't follow how they do politics in North Korea, but that would be interesting, especially in a country that is basically bullied by their government to have equal opportunity and to have a woman step into that place. So who knows? We'll have to see what happens. What do you think? You think Kim Jong Un is doing well and back to it, or do you think that that country is going through a whole lot of rigmarole just to fool people and make people think that he's doing okay? Send us your comments. Let us know what you think. If Kim Jong came and hung out with you, despite your state's stay-at-home quarantine laws and rules that were put out, please let us know. We're dying to know. And when we come back, we're going to also talk about something else that we don't know is true or not, and that's UFOs. Are they real or are they not? The Pentagon may have released some footage showing that they are real. Stay tuned to the Big Bold Show. We'll be right back. I don't think I've ever remembered in my lifetime the government being so open about the fact that they have no idea what they got footage of. And that's indeed what makes a UFO just that. Most people hear the term UFO and think aliens, but a UFO is simply an unidentified flying vehicle. Did I say that wrong? Unidentified flying object. That's right. But I don't know. I don't know what to think of the whole thing. It's really interesting because of the dynamics of how this footage is recorded and the audio that's coming from the pilots that's catching it. Apparently, these UFOs are doing things that none of the flight equipment that we have in the U.S. at least can actually do, like going from zero to oblivion in like 2 seconds. They just disappear. And so the footage is pretty shoddy. It's really grainy. You can't see anything. Have you seen the footage, Jordan? You looked at?
Yeah, it's very like weird and like it doesn't have like all. It's like it's not a clear picture. It's like a very shady picture. And
Exactly.
It's a little weird object.
And I think that's because the pilots, like the cameras that they have in their planes, are just kind of like what do you call it? They have night viz on them and. Probably they're looking at heat patterns, and it's not like an ultra 4D camera, so they're not going to capture a full outline. But I think when a pilot gets worried about, or not worried, I guess a pilot is amazed by what the aircraft is doing, that's something to think about. So You know, I think it could be. Is there a conspiracy? No, I don't believe there's a conspiracy, but I think that either there's something else actually out there, which I tend to not believe of things that I haven't seen before. But a stronger belief I have is that there's probably a more intelligent country that has more advanced aircraft, and we just don't know about it yet. Who knows? And the easiest thing it could be, especially with it being 2020, is I think it's probably maybe drone equipment. Yeah, I mean, everybody has a drone now. Of course, they're not flying as high as jet pilots, but depending on what the height is and that sort of thing, could make it very potentially a drone. So, have you seen a UFO? Have you been abducted by aliens? We'd love to know what your story is. And we'd love for you to tell everyone on the show about it. So please leave your comments on the show. And if we see some good stories, we'll be sure to share them on future shows. Folks, when we come back, we're going to talk about sports and COVID. How is the sports industry making do as best they can in the wake of COVID-19 when fans can't come to the show as per usual? We'll talk about that and a little bit of real estate when we come back to the Big Bold Show. So one of the things that is really different for me since we've been on quarantine is all the facial hair that I have. I haven't been able to grow my facial hair. First of all, I can't grow a beard to save my life, but what little I can is crazy. And I have a paranoia because I have this thing on my top lip called a mustache, and it keeps tickling my nose, and it feels like hair is coming out of my nose. It's driving me crazy, but I can't let go. So at any rate, if you're watching me on YouTube and there's a hair coming out of my nostril and wrapping around my ear, I'm sorry. I try to get rid of it. So at any rate, Jordan, you've been watching this. You a NASCAR fan?
No.
So yeah, one of the crazy things is I don't know all the details, but it looks like NASCAR is having professional competitions via e-racing, if that's what you want to call it. In fact, it's called e-NASCAR. So I've been doing some research, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand what's happening, but it looks like there's virtual races going on for placement in the towards finals. That's crazy. To get paid to be a NASCAR racer and do it as a video game would be insane. But I do admire NASCAR because I think what they're doing is they're trying to keep fans engaged. And if they can do that and fans are watching on television, they can sell advertising at least and try to keep money flowing in. So what do you think? Would you watch a virtual NASCAR race if you were a NASCAR fan? You
Yes,
would?
I would.
Really?
Yes, that would be the coolest thing ever.
That is so crazy. I've never been able to wrap my head around other people watching other people play video games. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of YouTubers that are doing it and making millions of dollars, but I can't do it. That's why I've never really been able to get into gaming, because it's one of those things where I know there's a lot more reality now than there's ever been, but I just remember it's a game. And so maybe as I get older, I'll get more interested in it. But anyways, yeah, let us know what you know about this whole eNASCAR Pro Invitational that's coming up, and what does it all entail. And until then, we're going to talk to you guys about some real estate and what you can do to prep your house if you're thinking about selling soon. Today, we're going to talk about the top 5 tips you can use to make your house more attractive and to sell faster. So, you know, when I list houses in the market, a lot of times sellers are only focused on how much they can sell it for and how quickly. Very rarely are they prepared for the things that really need to be done to sell their house. But if you take some of these tips that I'm about to give you and you take it seriously, you can make your house stand out just that much more, and you can sell it for probably a higher dollar. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the top 5 tips to sell your house quicker and for a higher dollar. Stay tuned. It's the Big Bold Show. So, if you're thinking about selling your house and you want to do it quickly, there are some things that you can do, and believe it or not, they're very inexpensive that can help your house stand out amongst the competition. The first thing you can do is paint. Paint is really inexpensive and it makes a really huge statement to have a fresh coat of paint, whether it be exterior or interior. And my advice is to neutralize rooms that may have been customized when you were living there. So if you have, a burgundy dining room that matches your curtains and that sort of thing, those things can really date your house. So a better idea is to neutralize with maybe a gray, or even what's trendy right now is a stark white, and allow your accents to be the pop of color. It could really help. The second thing you need to do is you need to declutter. So if you've ever rented an Airbnb, or you've ever rented a hotel room for that matter, you don't go in there and see a whole bunch of people's pictures and clothes that they don't wear anymore in the closets and this, that, and the other. There's not more dishes than what you need. There's just enough to accommodate you as the guest. So you kind of want to think about selling your house the same way. Minimize, because you're planning on moving anyway, minimize things that you don't need that take up the space, so that a buyer can see the potential and they can see how well organized that they could possibly be if they bought your house. You're selling an idea, basically, is my point there. So make sure you declutter. One of the ways you can do that if you haven't found a place to put things is to rent a pod, put it in the driveway, and go ahead and start packing early. The next thing is, if you have already purchased another place or you've already moved, go ahead and move and then put the house on the market and think about staging it, so that it takes away a little bit of personality. The third tip for selling your home or prepping your home to sell is curb appeal. And it kind of goes along with painting. If you have some deferred maintenance, some wood rot and things like that, of course you want to replace that, do the carpentry work, but you want to put a fresh coat of paint on it, and you want to follow that up with some fresh plants and flowers in the yard and fresh mulch in the yard. And one of the things that's really helped, because I'm in a military town, so a lot of the customers that we serve are military, and they are very patriotic. So a lot of times I try to put an American flag outside of the listings that I have, and it really goes a long way. It gives it a pop. It shows potential buyers that we are just as patriotic as they are, and it kind of starts a story that they otherwise wouldn't have. So consider that as well. And we talked about it before, but deferred maintenance. There's things that you probably know you should have been doing or you should have done. Now is the time to do it. Don't wait until you have a buyer on the line and then they are getting a home inspection and things that should not have come up in the home inspection, like the missing shingle on the roof or the piece of rotten wood on the back of the fireplace. Those things should already be taken care of. So go ahead and do that. It's not going to deter a buyer from getting a home inspection, but it's going to let them know that you take pride in what you're selling. And so it makes negotiations a lot easier in your favor. And lastly, but definitely not least, make sure you pre-stage your home. I tell people to appeal to the senses: sight, smell, visual, hear audio if you can. And there's easy ways to do that. One thing I would say is to put a non-abrasive scent in the house. So nothing really strong, but maybe like a plug-in near the front door on a low setting with vanilla scent, or like warm cookies. People love the smell of warm cookies, but nothing overwhelming or over floral, because that could actually drive people away. If you have cable radio or Pandora, when the showings are happening, you definitely want to have some music playing in the background, not blasting, but something to kind of get the mood going. And one of the ways that I think about that is whenever I go, or yeah, it used to be a station, but when I go to Express, I always like the music. And I realized after learning a little bit more about marketing is that they chose different sets of music to keep people interested in kind of shopping and in a feel-good mood, to a point where I started listening to the Express radio station, which used to be online, but I don't think it's there anymore. So kind of think about that. Think about what sets the mood from that perspective. Make sure all the lights are on. Open all the windows. Make sure you're getting plenty of natural light. Make sure that you also apply to taste. And the easiest way to do that is to get like maybe some little miniature candies, put them on the counter, and leave a note thanking the buyer for taking a view of your property. And allowing them or inviting them to help themselves to a piece of candy. So all those things really will attach a potential buyer to your property, especially when they're going to see 10 or 12 other properties that are stale, and there may be cobwebs because it hasn't been touched up, and it smells stale, and it's quiet and it's mute and there's no personality in there. That is not a memorable experience. But a combination of all the things that I mentioned before, you would be surprised. The smallest thing could leave a lasting impression and help you not only get an offer, but get a more attractive offer on your house. So at any rate, if you have some ideas that have worked for you in selling a house, we would love for you to share them with us. We want to know what do you think about the show title, The Big Bold Show, pending registration. That's what the show's going to be called. And I like it. What do you think, Jordan? The Big Bold Show, that work?
I like it a lot, actually.
Yeah, I think it's good because it doesn't really point to one direction or another, and it gives us the audacity to talk about whatever we want to. But anyways, thanks for listening to episode 2. If you missed it, go back to episode 1. Hopefully this one sounded better, and episode 3 will be even better. And until we talk to you again, have a lovely and safe work week if you're going back to work. But otherwise, love everyone and yourselves, and we will see you on the next episode. Take care.